Nephilim. The very word feels forbidden, whispered through time like a shadow in the sacred pages. In the Bible, in Genesis 6, they appear for a fleeting moment. Giants, the offspring of the sons of God and the daughters of men, and then vanish beneath silence, as if the world was not ready to know their truth. Why would Scripture reveal their existence only to conceal their story? Why would the Church bury the secrets of the Nephilim, while the Book of Enoch and ancient records describe them with terrifying clarity? They were not merely giants. They were men of renown, beings of power, the Nephilim giants who corrupted the earth with forbidden knowledge, metallurgy, sorcery, astrology, weapons of destruction. Imagine standing in their presence, taller than the walls of cities, stronger than armies, carrying wisdom that could either heal or annihilate. The echoes of their rebellion shook creation itself until God unleashed the great flood to cleanse the world of their darkness. And yet, their shadow never truly left. From Goliath to the Anakim, from the myths of the Titans to the whispers of hidden skeletons locked away in forbidden vaults, the story of the Nephilim keeps rising from the ashes. Why were their secrets hidden? Why do scholars dismiss their existence while ancient civilizations all tell the same tale of divine beings who walked among mortals? Could it be that the Vatican archives conceal truths too dangerous for ordinary eyes? Could it be that the silence itself is the greatest proof that the Nephilim are more than myth? In this video, you will uncover the secrets of the Nephilim that history tried to erase. You will see why their story connects Genesis, the Book of Enoch, the giants of Canaan, and even the hidden wars of our own time. And most of all, you will realize why their presence matters not just in the past, but for the future of humanity. So I ask you, do you believe the Nephilim were real, or are they the greatest cover-up in biblical history? Comment your thoughts below. And if this journey stirs your soul, like, subscribe, and join me as we unveil the truths that were never meant to be forgotten. The sons of God and the daughters of men. In the ancient words of Genesis 6, the veil is torn for a brief moment, and the truth comes forth like thunder. The sons of God saw the daughters of men that they were fair, and they took them wives of all which they chose. Here lies the beginning of the Nephilim mystery, a union that should never have been, a crossing of realms that shook the order of creation. These sons of God, called by some angels, by others divine beings, by still others rulers with heavenly power, descended into the world of mortals. They were not content with heaven's glory. They desired the beauty of human daughters, and in their desire they planted a seed of corruption that changed the earth forever. Think of the parallels across the nations. The Greek gods who left Olympus to take mortal wives, the Mesopotamian Apkallu who gave wisdom but brought ruin, the stories of demigods who were born stronger than men, yet too flawed to dwell with the gods. Even today, these tales stir something deep in the human soul, a longing to reach beyond our limits, yet a warning that some doors should never be opened. The mistake of the Nephilim story is the mistake of humanity in every age, seeking power without surrender, wisdom without humility, glory without God. It is the hunger that whispers still in our time, in laboratories where DNA is spliced, in towers where the proud chase immortality through machines. What lesson can we draw from this? that forbidden unions, however dazzling, leave behind scars too deep for the world to heal. The Bible records not romance, but tragedy. The very earth filled with violence because of this mingling. And yet, we are drawn to it, just as Israel's spies trembled when they saw the giants in Canaan and said, "We were like grasshoppers in our own sight." Fear, wonder, fascination, all stirred by the Nephilim. As you hear this, ask yourself, were these truly myths or warnings left by our ancestors, a testimony that heaven and earth collided once before? Share your thoughts in the comments, for this is not just history, it is a mirror to our desires and our dangers. And so the story moves forward, from the union that birthed them to the rise of their power upon the earth. The rise of the Nephilim on earth. They walked the earth as giants, mighty men of renown, their names echoing in the chants of tribes and in the nightmares of prophets. The Nephilim were not mere men. They were beings of great stature and immense strength, towering above villages, feared as conquerors, worshipped as gods. Imagine standing in the shadow of a man whose height reached twice that of ordinary men, whose voice rolled like thunder, whose eyes burned with a fire that did not belong to mortals. The stories of Goliath, the Anakim, the Rephaim, these are not tales of fantasy, but fragments of memory, echoes of a reality so terrifying that even the strongest hearts melted with fear. Archaeologists whisper of bones unearthed, of skeletons too large to belong to men, of vaults sealed and reports silenced. The Smithsonian rumors, the forbidden discoveries buried beneath polite denial. Could it be that the world has chosen silence because the truth is too great a crack in our understanding? Ancient structures like the pyramids of Egypt, the ziggurats of Mesopotamia, the Cyclopean walls of Peru rise as mute witnesses. How could primitive tools raise stones that modern cranes strain to move? Perhaps the knowledge was not human at all, but Nephilim knowledge, remnants of a race that held secrets lost to us now. And here lies a small but piercing lesson. Greatness without God always collapses. The Nephilim were renowned, but their renown brought no peace, only oppression and violence. Their cities rose like mountains, but fell into dust. Their names shook the nations, but could not stand before the flood of God's judgment. Even today, humanity chases its Nephilim. Celebrities worshipped like gods, billionaires whose power bends nations, leaders who rise too high and fall too fast. Every empire built on pride repeats the same pattern. A rise dazzling in glory, but a fall swift and merciless. What do you think? Were these giants the fathers of civilization, or the very reason the world was drowned? Comment your thoughts, because every discovery, every silence, every forbidden ruin points us deeper into the truth. And as the story of the Nephilim rises, so too must we face the question of what they gave to mankind, gifts that were not blessings but curses in disguise. Forbidden knowledge and the corruption of mankind. The Book of Enoch tells us plainly, the Watchers, those heavenly beings who fell, taught mankind what they were never meant to know. Metals were melted into blades of war, roots were turned into potions, the stars were mapped not for wonder, but for sorcery. The Nephilim carried forbidden knowledge, and with it they shattered innocence. It was knowledge without holiness, wisdom without love, power without restraint. Humanity, dazzled by this flood of secrets, grew in arrogance and violence until the very earth cried out in agony. Consider the civilizations that rose after: Egypt with its pyramids aligned to the stars, Mesopotamia with mathematics and astronomy, the Mayans who read the heavens with impossible precision. Could it be coincidence that the skills match what Enoch recorded? Or are these the fingerprints of Nephilim influence scattered across continents as a reminder of the corruption that spread like a plague? Even science today warns us: knowledge grows faster than wisdom, and when man reaches for godlike power, the fall is never far behind. Nuclear fire, artificial intelligence, genetic engineering, are these not echoes of the same forbidden path? But hear the lesson: not all knowledge is good for the soul. To know the stars, but not the maker of stars, is to walk blind in the dark. To wield power without humility is to become a destroyer instead of a creator. The Nephilim stand as a living parable, their might turned to ruin, their wisdom twisted into chains. What God intended for light, they dragged into shadow, and in so doing they sealed their fate. This truth is heavy, yet healing, because it reminds us of our calling: to seek knowledge with reverence, to honor wisdom with humility, to walk not in pride, but in light. For the greatest danger is not that giants once walked the earth, but that the spirit of the Nephilim still whispers to humanity, tempting us to believe we can become gods without God. And so the story moves onward, to the flood, to judgment, to the cleansing of a world too far gone. The flood, God's judgment on a corrupted world. The world had grown loud with violence, the cries of the innocent drowned by the thunder of war, the laughter of giants echoing across valleys as if they owned the very earth. The Nephilim walked as conquerors, and mankind followed them into darkness. Scripture declares that every thought of man's heart was only evil continually. Imagine a world where hope seemed buried beneath the shadow of corruption, where the sacred order of creation was twisted until nothing remained pure. And in this hour of despair, the voice of God spoke not with anger alone, but with sorrow. The flood was not only a punishment, it was a cleansing, a healing act to rescue what was still good. Noah stood as the last remnant, not perfect but faithful, described as righteous in his generation. His bloodline was untainted, his heart still turned toward God when others bowed to giants and idols. The ark became more than wood and pitch. It was the heartbeat of salvation, a sanctuary floating above chaos. Picture the waters rising, swallowing palaces, cities and towers built by hands that thought themselves immortal. Picture the Nephilim, mighty in strength, yet powerless against the waves of judgment. Their secrets sank into the deep, their voices silenced beneath the flood. This story is not only ancient, it is a mirror held before us. For just as the Nephilim corrupted the earth with forbidden knowledge, so today humanity toys with forces too great to contain. Nuclear fire, genetic manipulation, artificial intelligence, all tools that can bless or burn depending on the heart that wields them. The lesson is clear. When wisdom is lost, knowledge becomes a weapon, and when pride replaces humility, destruction always follows. The flood stands as a warning, but also as a promise. God's justice is swift, but his mercy is deeper still, for the ark was not just for Noah, but for the hope of all generations. Think of this truth as you reflect. Is our age repeating the days of Noah? Comment. Your thoughts, because the past may be a prophecy of the future. And from the flood, the story flows forward to a world reborn. yet still haunted by the shadows of the giants. After the flood, the echoes of giants. When the waters receded, it seemed the Nephilim were gone forever, their voices silenced, their power broken. Yet Scripture whispers again of giants rising in Canaan, of Anakim, Rephaim, and of one who would become legend, Goliath, towering over the valley, mocking Israel's God with a sword in hand. How could this be? Had the corruption ended, or had it survived, hidden in bloodlines, waiting for its hour? Some believe the wives of Noah's sons carried traces of that forbidden seed, a spark that endured through generations. Others say pockets of survivors escaped the flood's wrath. Whatever the path, the truth is clear. The echoes of the Nephilim endured. Israel's story is filled with encounters against these giants. When the 12 spies entered the promised land, 10 returned trembling, saying, "We were like grasshoppers in our own sight." Fear gripped their hearts because they saw not just men, but remnants of an ancient terror. Yet God commanded his people to drive them out, not because of their height, but because of their corruption. The conquest of Canaan was not only a battle for land, but a spiritual war to cleanse the earth once more of the Nephilim's shadow. Think of David, a shepherd boy, standing with a sling before a giant whose spear weighed as much as a man. The world saw a hopeless fight. God saw a testimony. When Goliath fell, it was more than a victory for Israel. It was a symbol that faith can topple the strongest giant, that trust in God is greater than bloodlines of corruption or armies of darkness. And this lesson is as alive today as it was in that valley. We all face giants, addictions that tower over us, fears that mock us, systems that seem unshakable. Yet every giant falls when faced with courage rooted in faith. The echoes of the Nephilim remind us that evil often returns in new forms, that corruption seeks to rise again and again. But just as Israel overcame, just as David triumphed, so too are we called to rise against the giants of our own time. Whether in the hidden chambers of power, in the battles of the mind, or in the struggles of the soul, the same truth holds. No giant is greater than God's purpose. This is not just history, it is prophecy. It speaks to us now. And from these echoes of giants, the story flows into deeper shadows, where silence itself became a weapon, and the guardians of faith chose what truths to reveal and what to hide. The Vatican, silence, and the lost books. There are stories too dangerous to be told, pages that seem to burn the fingers of those who hold them. Among these are the secrets of the Nephilim, preserved in the Book of Enoch, the Book of Jubilees, and fragments buried in the sands of Qumran. In Ethiopia, the Church still guards these books as part of its living canon, but in the West they were cast aside, labeled apocrypha, hidden behind walls of silence. Why would such texts be forgotten unless they contained truths that could shatter the neat borders of theology? Why would the Vatican, with its endless archives, hold volumes it refuses to release? Manuscripts that might reveal the full story of the giants who once walked the earth. Consider the power of silence. To exclude a book is not only to remove its words, but to control the shape of faith itself. When the Book of Enoch speaks of the watchers, of forbidden knowledge, of judgment and hope, it expands the story of Genesis, filling in the cracks left in Scripture. Yet its exclusion creates mystery, a void where speculation grows wild. Imagine walking through the Vatican Library. Endless shelves of leather-bound secrets, some of them so fragile that only a gloved hand may turn the page. There, in the dim light, may lie accounts of the Nephilim that were meant to be seen only by the few, never by the many. This silence is not unique. Throughout history, institutions have chosen what to reveal and what to conceal, shaping memory like a sculptor shapes stone. But every stone hidden leaves a shadow, and shadows invite questions. Were the Nephilim merely a legend meant to inspire awe, or were they living proof of a cosmic rebellion too dark to face openly? Comment what you believe, because the more we uncover, the more the silence itself becomes evidence. The lesson here is piercing. When truth is buried, hunger for it only grows stronger. And that hunger leads us to see why the story of the Nephilim is not only about the past, but about our time. The lessons of the Nephilim for our time. As it was in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the coming of the Son of Man. These words are not distant prophecy, but living fire, reminding us that the patterns of old return in new forms. The Nephilim were destroyed by the flood, yet their spirit lingers in every age where humanity overreaches, where power is chased without humility, where knowledge is grasped without wisdom. Look around today. Scientists cut and splice the code of life, seeking to remake creation in their own image. Machines rise with intelligence that learns faster than the minds that made them. Weapons gleam with power strong enough to end nations in a heartbeat. This is not mythology. It is our headlines, our daily reality. The story of the Nephilim teaches us that not every gift is meant to be received. Not every secret is meant to be known. Their downfall came because they gave mankind tools without teaching mankind holiness. In our time, we repeat their mistake when we value progress above purpose, innovation above morality. Yet the Bible-style truth is also healing. We are not condemned to repeat their fate if we walk with God. Noah did not escape because he was stronger than the giants, but because he was faithful. David did not slay Goliath with a sword, but with trust in the Almighty. The lesson is clear. Giants fall not by greater might, but by greater faith. Think of your own giants. They may not stand 9 feet tall with spears of iron, but they loom in your fears, your struggles, your addictions, your battles in silence. The message of the Nephilim is not only about ancient ruins or Vatican secrets, it is about the unseen battles you fight every day. Do you face them with your own strength, or do you rise like David, trusting in a power far greater? Comment. Your story, for your testimony, may be the sling that inspires another to stand against their giant. This is the healing hidden in the horror of the Nephilim. They remind us that corruption has always threatened the world, but God has always raised a remnant to resist. And as their echoes haunt our age, the call grows stronger. To stand, to believe, to live with courage and humility. From the days of Noah to the struggles of today, the Nephilim are not only shadows of the past, they are mirrors of the present. And the reflection they give us can either terrify us into silence or awaken us into strength. The story of the Nephilim is not just an ancient whisper buried in Genesis chapter 6. It is a mirror held up to every generation, a living riddle that forces us to confront the boundaries of power, faith, and humility. They were giants, yes, but more than that. They were the embodiment of pride and corruption, the crossing of heaven's fire with the clay of earth. Their very existence carried both wonder and terror, a fascination that has never left the human heart. Even today, their shadow stretches across our imagination, and their secrets pulse like a heartbeat beneath the pages of the Bible, the Book of Enoch, the hidden scrolls locked away in the Vatican, and the ancient ruins that defy explanation. Imagine the world before the flood, a place where knowledge burned too brightly, where the Watchers handed mankind tools we were not ready to hold, and where the Nephilim giants walked with arrogance across the land. Violence filled the earth like a poison, and the cry of the innocent reached heaven. The flood was more than water. It was a cleansing wave, a divine reset to heal a world bleeding under the weight of corruption. Yet even after the waters receded, echoes remained. From Goliath taunting Israel in the valley to the Anakim haunting the hills of Canaan, the giants reappeared as reminders that evil often hides, waiting for its moment to rise again. Their downfall teaches us one truth that resonates like thunder. Pride always destroys itself, and no giant, no matter how tall, can stand against the hand of God. But this is not only their story, it is ours. The spirit of the Nephilim still whispers today. It lives in every pursuit of power without humility, every chase for knowledge without wisdom, every tower built higher and higher in defiance of the heavens. Look at our age. Technology racing faster than morality, weapons crafted stronger than conscience, artificial intelligence rising without restraint. Are we not once again standing on the threshold of forbidden knowledge? The same temptation that corrupted the earth before the flood still beats in human hearts, urging us to believe we can be gods without God. That is why the Nephilim matter, not because of bones hidden in vaults or myths passed down, but because their story is alive in our own decisions, our own pride, our own hunger for more. And yet their story carries healing too, for even in the darkest times, God raised up voices to stand against giants. Noah found grace and built an ark when the world drowned in violence. David stood with nothing but a sling when a giant mocked the living God. Faith, not might, has always toppled giants. That is the hope woven into this tale. No matter how great the shadows, light always breaks through. Your giants may not bear the name Nephilim, but they rise in other forms. Fear that crushes your spirit, shame that chains your heart, grief that feels taller than mountains. The message of Scripture is not simply that giants fall, but that you too can overcome. The same power that felled Goliath can breathe courage into your soul today. So what will we do with this truth? Will we shrug it off as myth, or will we let it awaken something deeper? The Vatican may keep its silence, scholars may debate, but the real choice is not theirs, it is ours. Do we see the Nephilim as relics of the past, or as warnings for the present and the future? Do you believe they were real giants of flesh and blood, or symbols of the corruption that forever tries to rise within us? Comment. Your thoughts, because the conversation matters as much as the story. Your perspective may unlock insights for someone else searching in the dark. If this journey through the secrets of the Nephilim has stirred your heart, if it has helped you see the Bible not as distant history but as living truth, I invite you to carry this light forward. Like this video, subscribe for more stories that reveal the mysteries hidden in Scripture, and share this with someone who needs to hear that even the greatest giants can fall. And if you feel that this message has brought value to your soul, If it has given you strength in a heavy season or helped you glimpse hope where you thought there was none, I gently invite you to offer a little energy back. Your support, in any form, is what keeps this voice alive, weaving together these stories to inspire, to heal, and to awaken faith. Every gesture, no matter how small, is precious beyond words, and from my heart I say thank you. The Nephilim remind us of the cost of pride and the gift of humility. They remind us that knowledge without holiness destroys, but wisdom with faith restores. They remind us that giants fall, floods cleanse, and hope survives. Above all, they remind us that no secret can remain buried forever, for the truth always rises, like light breaking through clouds. Carry that truth with you, and let it heal your fear, strengthen your courage, and anchor your soul. For the story of the Nephilim is not the end. It is a doorway, calling us to walk in faith, to resist corruption, and to stand tall against the giants of our own age. And maybe, just maybe, the greatest secret of all is that you were never meant to face them alone.